I heard so many parents talking about, if I can just get my kid to obey. And so we send kids out in the world who are obedient. That doesn't change anything. I want to teach my kids how to be a parent too.
Yeah.
That's why I talk them through stuff. So we started out early, just said, okay, we'll feel like we've achieved what we're aiming at if we have godly 35-year-old parents. And the reason for that is kids make choices. Oh my goodness. And I said in the message, you're responsible to your kids, but you're not responsible for their behaviors.
Welcome into the Church at the Springs podcast. I am joined by, for the first time.
Absolutely. I'm a newbie.
Usually we have our lead pastor, Ron Sylvia, that joins us here. But now we've got Hal Mayer. Hal taught at our Ocala campus. If you do not catch the message, I heavily encourage you to go to YouTube. It's on there. It's something that's just practical. And there's so much good stuff from it. And my name is Luke, and again, this is Hal. But we'll be going through this and kind of breaking everything down. And once again, just want to remind you guys, 5-day devotional and small group questions if you wanted to do this with your group based on the sermon. It's in the description of this episode on audio platforms as well as YouTube. Hal, I asked my wife on Sunday, I said, what was your main takeaway from this message? And she just looked at me. She said, everything. As parents of a almost 4-year-old and almost 2-year-old, it felt like it was a perfect time for us to hear this because they're not in their teenage years yet, and we can kind of talk and have this conversation of what it looks like for us to parent, how to effectively do it. So I wanted to start with maybe just a quick background for you.
Yeah.
You were at the Springs and kind of what you're up to now.
Yeah, I've always been a leadership junkie, enjoyed that realm and training. I've been executive pastor in a couple megas and a giga church, and then a teaching pastor, and then also started a church in Tampa. But right now, about a couple years back, I retired from full-time church staff role, but did something that was big for me, coaching. So I'm coaching pastors. Sometimes it's a whole church staff along with individuals, and also businesses. Just a lot on culture, a lot on communication, stuff like that. So not a ton of that, but I do enough just to keep my finger in the water so I can enjoy it.
You talk about leadership is really what you have a hand in now.
Yeah.
Would you say that your maybe handle on parenting, as you taught in this sermon and did so well, translates to being a good leader? Like when you found those things that maybe translated to that better?
Oh yeah. I parenting, leadership, it's tough to separate. That's probably why I enjoyed it. But I love experimenting. I love trying things in the workplace and see what type of results that produces. And I was that kind of parent.
Yeah.
I just said, okay, my kid's doing this. I don't like that. What do I need to do different so they're not being rewarded for that behavior?
Yeah, and you look at it in the workplace, and I want to talk about this, about discipline. In the workplace, there seems to be a pretty well laid out ground rules of if you do this,
right,
you get a strike, you do this, whatever it might be, and then finally you're getting let go, whatever it might be.
Right.
But you talk about this in the world of parenting in this message, and you talk about being consistent in your discipline. And you said, for the example you gave was, in one of the services was, your kid breaks a glass or something in the house, you fly off the handle, and then the next time they do it, they're kind of walking around waiting for that shoe to drop for you to blow a gasket, right?
Right.
They're just waiting. What would you say is the importance of maybe having that consistent discipline in parenting?
Yeah, what I learned was when I'm not consistent, they don't know what to expect. And when they don't know what to expect, they don't know how to behave. So I want to bring consistent discipline. Let me say this. Dropping a glass is childish irresponsibility. It's not a behavior that they did trying to be bad. Doesn't mean there's not consequences. Lying, on the other hand, that's a different thing. But it didn't matter what it was. I didn't want to get angry and raise. Part of it, my size. I'm 6'5" and weigh 265 pounds, and I'm grown. And so that for a kid is scary. So I always tried to lower the tone, to talk in a kinder voice, because I didn't want to scare my kids, but I did want to discipline them.
Yeah, and you talking about that, like lowering your tone, understanding stature, and it's not just yourself that has a large stature compared to their kids, right?
Right.
And the John Deloney, who I believe just does like a lot of like therapist, counselor work for the Dave Ramsey Network, Ramsey Solutions. Something that he put on Instagram recently was, when you're talking to your kids, you are a giant to them. Get down on their level.
Absolutely.
When they're talking about something serious, when you're talking to them about something that matters, because otherwise they're going to be just intimidated the entire time looking up at you, and you become scary to them.
Right. That's the whole idea of being dispassionate when you're doing it. They're kids.
Right.
So it's not the end of the world. What they did, I mean, you listen to the message, you'll hear some stuff my son did that people would go, that's the end of the world. It's really not. It's part of them learning how to behave as adults.
And you told the story.
Yeah.
And like you said, people might say it's the end of the world. Well, now your son Hal is a pastor
Yeah.
and doing well in it. And it's like, and I look at even, I hate to do this to my brothers. Jacob was growing up, was the rebellious type. He'll tell you that firsthand.
Oh, yeah.
But and he did things that people might say like, oh, that was the end of the world. He probably didn't turn out great. And now Jacob is our Middleton campus pastor, and they're thriving over there, doing an incredible job. So it's like, it's how you handle it in the moment,
Yeah.
because it's not the end of the world.
Correct.
And you just have to look at the path of people who messed up and now are on the right path to know that one thing or a series or a phase of their life doesn't make them that thing.
Correct.
The other thing you talked about in this message, which I thought was awesome, was the 3 A's.
Yeah.
For those that didn't catch the message, could you just real briefly kind of go through those, and then we'll have a further conversation about it?
Yeah, the 3 A's, had a pastor friend say, hey, you're going to have to teach your kids how to disagree with you and win. Because, kids aren't going to be smarter than you and all that. So teach them a style, respectful. So the 3 A's were attitude. That meant they didn't come snarky or yelling or angry. If they started the feedback or started to say, I want to do something different that way, they knew that, hey, we're done. You blew the A, first A. Second one is audience. That's one-on-one. They need to do that in front of me. If they don't like my plan, not a problem, but disagree with me one-on-one, and you'll get a chance to win. And the last one, for me, that is vital to wrap this up, is the alternatives piece. Because if you're not talking, the kid's not coming up with alternatives, then what they're focused on is what they don't like. So to create something, you will need them focusing on alternatives. And so I'll give you an example. My daughter, I always told them, hey, listen, if you want a kid to stay the night, you got to pull me aside and ask me. That's the audience piece of 3 A's. So I remember her saying, hey, Dad, and Emily's standing right there, can Emily stay the night? Now, I loved Emily. What a great kid. And I just looked at Emily and said, oh, Emily, I'm sorry. I wanted you to stay the night, but Ashley knows the 3 A's, and she didn't get the audience right. And it's not it's just a consequence, so you can't stay the night this time. Maybe next time she'll get that right for you.
Yeah.
After that, she always got it right. It's
Right.
amazing. A consequence as a teacher rather than lecturing.
Yeah, and that's something that that ties into the consequence piece of defining and really laying the groundwork for that. For you and laying the groundwork, is that how you completely avoid becoming the consequence, that maybe the yelling and the getting loud that you talked about in the message?
Yeah, and I did get it perfect. Okay, let me just say that there. But more and more, we tried not to become the consequence. I'll give you another example. My kids could earn money, and so they would earn it. We'd walk over to the mall, and they could buy ice cream. Now, my daughter is super generous, still is to this day, and she would buy things for people and all that, and I would remind her, hey, I reminded her once, hey, don't forget, we're going to get ice cream. Well, we got to the mall. She didn't have any money, so I get up in line. I ask Sandy what she wants. She orders, I order, Hal orders his and pays for his own. And Sandy said, Ashley doesn't have any money. And I went, oh, shoot. I'm sorry, Ashley. You were supposed to be, you didn't? Well, maybe next time. And so we walked home, 3 of us eating ice cream and 1 of us not. And again, it's the last time that happened. And people go, oh, that's mean. No, what I think is mean is not allowing your kids to experience consequences. Because when they get older and they don't pay their credit card bill, They're not going to go, oh, it's okay, we'll pay it for you. I mean, that's small, sure, ice cream, but it's all that stuff that builds in the character.
Right. And that kind of ties into something you talked about as well, which was let your kids fail at home under your roof so that when they get to the real world, it's not a complete something that blindsides them.
Right.
And all of that ties into as well, like the 3 A's. Would you say that that definitely converts over to the work world and dealing with higher ups and coworkers?
I actually train that now when I'm doing anything with corporate structures or church things, just because we're in a world where there's conflict, and we're in a world where people blow up and get offended at everything, and you're not going to win that way. So my deal is, let's set up how we can win. So when I would be the boss at a place, I would say, you can disagree with anything I said. Just don't do it in a group, because if you do it in a group, I promise you it will not go well. And once people learn that, it becomes safe. And I'd have people come in, can I give you some feedback on that meeting you just had? One-on-one? Absolutely. And so actually what happens is you get more feedback when people learn how to do it right, because they're used to you saying, yes, I never got angry at feedback. Not outwardly. There were sometimes, I can't believe I did that, or I can't believe I said that, but hey, part of life.
Right. And it seems like with parenting, it feels like the key when it comes to disciplining, making sure that your kids are on the right path and that you handle things correctly, is removing emotion out of that. Yeah. Are you naturally inclined to the emotional side of things when it comes to that, or is that something you had to teach yourself to?
Oh no, I really had to come around. I had a terrible anger issue. My mom wouldn't let me take karate when I was 10. She was afraid I'd kill somebody. And so yeah, I had huge anger issues. But what I realized as a parent suddenly was, you go at your kids like that, you crush their spirit. I wanted to break their will, and what I mean by that is they need to learn to choose not to do something wrong. I didn't want to crush their spirit. This is probably a bad illustration, but I love German Shepherd dogs, and I had several. If you yell at a dog, they cower and you hit them. However, if you don't yell at them and give them instructions and stuff like that, you don't break their spirit. I've seen nice German Shepherd dogs with a broken spirit because they've been yelled at and hit instead of trained, and I trained all mine.
Yeah, that is so good, because there are a lot of parents, myself included, still figuring this out.
Oh, absolutely. Me too.
Yeah, and that's what parenting's like. It's not just like the kids are growing up for the first time, but you're parenting for the first time. Having my son and my daughter, there are times where our 4-year-old, or almost 4-year-old, just pushes our buttons and tests our limits.
Yeah.
Harper, don't do that. And then she looks at you, and she continues to proceed to walk to where you told her not to. And even this morning, Lauren was telling me that they were getting in the car and taking Harper to school. And Harper said, I want to get this toy. And Lauren was like, hey, baby, we're running late. I need you to get in the car. Let's get in the car. Harper then proceeds to look at her, run inside the house, grab her toy, come back outside, and just start to get in the car, basically telling Lauren, it's okay, I got it. And just learning how to navigate those situations when they're just too young to really negotiate with. What can you do?
Well, in that situation, don't tell me what your wife did, because I'm sure she was fine. I'm not here to give feedback to wives on parenting.
Right, yeah.
If my child would have done that, I would have taken the toy, pitched it up on the front porch, and said, now get in the car. Maybe it'll be there when you get home.
Right. Yeah.
And reminded them, when I say get in the car, it means get in. Nothing else is going on. And they soon realize that throwing the fit or doing that doesn't get them what they want. And they're smart. They quit doing it. They do what's effective. My son, when he was first baby, we rocked him to sleep, and we did all this. And so finally we decided we had to put him in bed to go to sleep. And he cried for 30 minutes. Sandy went in and got him. And this went on for a while. And I said, let's try something. Let's let him in there and let him cry. So it was hard on Sandy, not me as much, but he cried for probably 30, 45 minutes, and then he fell asleep. The next night, we laid him down there. He cried for like 15 minutes. The next night, the hilarious thing is he went, and he fell asleep. And what we realized was our kid had us trained. I get it. They want to be held. I mean, you ought to hold your kids, love your
Right.
kids and all that, but you've got to get some sleep.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's all too real. Now, we've been doing this on recent episodes, and it seems to be going over well. For you, what got left on the cutting room floor, or what was something that maybe you kind of just touched on briefly and wish you could have gone deeper into, but it only had 30 minutes?
The one thing I didn't talk about because I didn't have time to explain it, and I didn't want to come across as a mean ogre, was this quote: "Don't give your kids a consequence you don't enjoy."
What do you mean by that?
That sounds harsh, doesn't it? And I'm not talking about your 4-year-old here.
Right.
I'm talking about by the time they get first, second grade, whatever, maybe 5 years they can figure it out. But especially the teenage years. Here's what I watch parents do. Okay, you're in timeout. Now, the whole time they're in timeout, they're whining. They're wondering, what, is it done yet? Or you sit over there 10 minutes. How long do I have? It's costing you. You don't enjoy it. So, and then you go, okay, you're on restriction. That's amazing to me because you punish yourself making that, an angry child stay around you all the time. So I flipped the script. I said, what is it I want done that they won't like? Oh my goodness. Wash the car, clean the garage, clean the pool, weed in the garden I love that one, and clean the bathroom. And what I would do, they would say, I'm done. Come look. Said, if I come look and you're not done, it's going to be worse. So they learned to finish stuff. And I remember my kids one time arguing. I played a little sarcasm too in this. They were arguing. I said, you know what, guys? I've been a bad father. You obviously aren't getting enough time together. So you're arguing, son and daughter. Not unusual. So here's what I'm going to do. Y'all go ahead and clean the garage together. And so you can have some time. And my daughter goes, but Dad, I said, okay, and the pool. And you know what? I'm sure they still disagreed. They didn't do it in front of us, and that's all I wanted. I want some peace and quiet.
Yeah.
So the consequences became a game for me. What can I do that will extinguish that behavior? And what can I do that saves me work? That's why I hated when they both were in college, because I tried using consequences with Sandy, and it didn't work at all.
Doesn't work.
This does not work in your marriage.
Yeah. Shockingly, she wouldn't go wash her car.
No.
I will say this. So you talking about that makes me obviously just think back to my own kids. And this might be something that we try to implement because I think Harper can grasp this.
Yeah.
Cole cannot grasp that. But what she can grasp is, we told you not to do that. So now I need you to go to the playroom and clean up all those toys that are in there. Because for us, you talk about doing something we enjoy, we would love that. And she cleans up her toys from time to time, but naturally Lauren's working and there's toys everywhere and they accumulate. And we would love for her to do a majority of that work.
Absolutely.
So that's something, and she does love helping, but I wonder in that moment how she would receive that thing that she enjoys doing, helping, but doing it in the sense of a consequence. And if that's something we could kind of make the foundation of disciplining at this age.
Yeah, with our guys, I'd say, hey, go clean up the playroom. And it was a halfway done job. And Sandy early on would go up and clean up the rest of it. I said, no, they're not learning. So go ahead. And I'd come in and look, and I go, not done yet, but I'm not going to tell them what it is. They're smart kids. They know what it is. They know what's left out. And that was kind of the game we played. I got to tell you this one, I love this one. My son was not quite the fan of it, which made it so good.
Of
right?
course, yeah.
He was 16 and get home from school, go hang out with his buds, or he'd have ball practice or something like that. Well, Sandy would take the laundry, his clothes, coming out, fold them, and set them on his bed, and his role was to put them away. And he's a 16-year-old boy, and he's just shoving it in closets, he's shoving it in drawers, and so all this work she went through. And she's talking to him about it. I said, you know what, let's not do the talk to thing anymore. I said, Hal, listen, I want to be a good father, and when I see the sarcasm again. When I see your room like this and your mom doing all this work, it makes me realize I haven't given you enough practice in cleaning your room up. So that's on me. So here's what I commit to do for you. And he's 16, so he's getting what's coming. I said, you don't have to have a perfect room. I don't care about that. However, if your mom folds clothes and they're not put away properly and this room's trashed, because I care about you, I'm going to dump stuff on the floor and let you clean it up, and you have to clean it up before you do anything else.
I love that.
Got it. So 2 weeks go by. He's nailed it. Then I walk by, and Sandy says, hey, have you seen the room? And I looked, and I went, got it. I emptied every drawer he had in the house on the middle of the floor, took all the clothes out of the closet, threw them on the floor, flipped the bed over, and gently closed the door. And so he got home from work, and I didn't do it in anger. I was just doing it having fun because I knew he was going to hate it, kind of like I hated hearing about his room not being clean. So he gets home, and, hey, what are you going to do? I'm going to go hang with the guy. I said, cool. So he goes in his room, and he comes out, and he goes, got it. And he did better. Was he perfect? No. His dad wasn't perfect, so he's not going to be perfect. But that's the type of thing I mean, because I see so many parents lecture their kids about curfews or about, you didn't call me. They go out. For example, I'd say, okay, guys, by the time my kids were in high school, we didn't have curfews. My rule was, you got to call me by 11, let me know where you are. I want to know you're safe. And I don't know anything good happened after midnight, but let me know. So that went along fine. This didn't happen for us because they kind of knew I was the consequence guy. If they'd have showed up at 11:10 and not called me, I would have said, not sure what happened, guys, but you don't want to do that anymore. Can you fix that? Yeah. So what are you going to do? Okay, they're going to. So first time, I'm just asking them a question. They're adults. The second time it happens, I would say, hey, listen, we tried your plan. It didn't work. So here's the new plan. Curfew's now 9 o'clock. And if you're late, you're not going out again for a week. And what happened was, I didn't start there. A lot of parents go, you can't do it. No, I started with just the conversation, but they knew their dad was the consequence guy and don't mess with him. So that was a nice thing there. And so they nailed that. But I also wanted them to go to college and know how to go to bed at night, know how to get up, because their dad went to college and I played spades all night long and got a 1.9 my first semester and almost got kicked off the basketball team.
There you go. Well, the important piece of the consequences, because I'm sure there's parents who don't execute to the level of like the consequences of turning the bedroom around and trying to get the point across. There are some parents who might hear that and say, that's a little bit harsh. Yeah. But I think it's important to always come back to, why do we discipline? And it's the whole punishment versus love and promoting the growth of your kids.
One other thing, let me say this.
Yeah.
Yes to what you just said. An important thing for a boy to learn is to respect his mom. And boys can be tough there. So it was also, he was disrespecting Sandy. Disrespecting me, we'll deal with.
Right.
Disrespecting your mom, it goes to another level. So that was a piece of that too that came in at that level.
And that's something my dad always said to me. And that's when the point always got across. He said, you're not going to talk to my wife like that.
No.
And every time, it got me every time. I was like, okay, he's serious. It's them versus me, not me and one of them versus the other. And they made it very clear that we are.
And you were the favorite child.
I know. Imagine.
I mean, I get why. I know your brothers, but I mean, you were the one they catered to and took.
That's exactly right. You're not wrong, and it comes with being the favorite.
It's pressure for you, right?
Right. And the last thing that I want to touch on here is this was Lauren. What she came to as being the big takeaway.
Yeah.
Was I loved that he said that we are parenting. Our goal is to parent and raise up godly 35-year-old parents themselves. Can you talk about kind of your heart for that and where that came from for you?
Well, I heard so many parents talking about, if I can just get my kid to obey. And so we send kids out in the world who are obedient. That doesn't change anything. I want to teach my kids how to be a parent too.
Yeah.
That's why I talk them through stuff. So we started out early, just said, okay, we'll feel like we've achieved what we're aiming at if we have godly 35-year-old parents. And the reason for that is kids make choices. Oh my goodness. And I said in the message, you're responsible to your kids, but you're not responsible for their behaviors. Sometimes in college, early 20s, they'll do dumb stuff. You're not done yet. I wanted to see them as godly parents, which married, obviously. I guess that's not obvious, but I would say that's the case. Now I'd have to put that in there. Married, godly 35-year-old parents. But that gave us a different way because it wasn't just about now. Again, you ought to be able to get compliance. I always laugh, and this is probably mean, but when I hear parents say, "Oh, I don't know what I can do. I can't wait till my toddler gets older. I just can't control him," or my first grader, I think, if you can't handle them then, teenagers are going to eat you alive.
Yeah, wait until they discover themselves
they're
more.
smarter and they know how to play the game. Can I tell you one story about dating? It's not like
Please. Yeah.
So my daughter was dating a guy who was a valedictorian at a local high school. And I got to tell you, it's my daughter, so the guy's got to be right, and I'm harder on the guy, and I get it. That's me, and I love her to this day, still love her. So anyway, this guy comes over, and he's going to go in the ministry. And we're just talking, being nice, and he starts to correct me. And I looked at him, I said, "What do you mean?" "Well, that's not what a church should do." I went, "Let me ask you a question. Do you have a high school diploma?" He said, "No, but I'm a valedictorian." I said, "I got one of those." I said, "You got a job?" Well, no. I said, "Got a family?" I said, "I got that." I said, "College, when you go there, do you have a degree?" "No." "You know that degree your professors have, that doctor's degree? I already have that." So basically what I understand, you've got an opinion about, that's been found and grounded in no facts or understanding. So you got to stop talking. Now, he didn't come back around again, but Ashley was a little bothered with him going at me like that.
Yeah.
But it was funny because Hal was there and he went running back to the bed. Brad was staying with, "Brad, you got to come see this." So it was kind of fresh meat on the table.
I love that. I can wait until I have to deal with guys wanting to date Harper and girls even wanting to date Cole, whatever it is. So, but I will have fun with it. Absolutely.
But I dated my daughter, dated my son too. I wanted to know what it's supposed to look like when you go out there. I wanted to know what a guy was supposed to treat you like. And I said, "Hey, if anybody's not treating you right, call me. I'm not upset at you. I'll come get you." And well, because dad and his daughter, it's just a tight thing. But parenting, to go back there, I loved it. I had so much fun at it. And was I perfect? Of course not. Were my kids perfect? Oh, of course not.
Yeah.
But the good part is right now I got 2 kids who married godly people, and they're raising their kids to love Jesus. And Sandy and I are going, "Hey, let's go after a legacy." It's the next group.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Hal, we appreciate you sitting down with us today. And next week, we'll be sitting down to wrap up this series. I believe we will have Tim Selleck preaching at Ocala this weekend, and then not sure who I'll be sitting down with next week to kind of recap everything. But we are looking forward to it. And again, thank you, Hal, and we will catch you guys next time.
Thanks for the opportunity.
See ya.